What was your first job? I worked at a Hallmark store when I was 16. First job I applied for. They hired someone else. It didn't work out, so they called me a few months after I applied. I ended up working there for 7 years. All through high school and college. It was me and 80-year-olds Martha and Berta on the closing shift. They became surrogate grandmothers to me as I was never close with my actual grandmothers. I loved those women. I loved that job. I'm coming up to my 7-year anniversary at my current job, and I'm sad it's going to knock Hallmark out of the one spot for longest employment somewhere. Hauling hay. Dad drove, but I was hefting those bales into the trailer. We also bought a house that was scheduled to demolition and took it apart board by board to build a farmhouse. Dad paid all the neighborhood kids to pull nails out of the scrap wood and paid them by the nail. For a real job where I paid taxes at 15, I was a carpenter's helper at a construction site making adult wages. They made me gopher, meaning I drove the company truck to get materials. I recall signing for $20,000 worth of tools and wondering if a contract signed by a 15-year-old was valid. Planting white pine trees for the forestry department. It was like $35 per day. They dumped me and a bunch of mostly delinquent teens out in a clear-cut field and gave us pig canvas shoulder bags to carry saplings and a digger planter bar. We'd space out 1 bar length apart and walk in a straight line planting a tree every pace or two. The supervisor left early in the day, and some of the dudes used their digging bar to break into a shed and see what was in it. I got to ride back to the forestry office in a bitchin' Camaro with 80s rock blasting my eardrums. I worked in the mall at a store called the Candy Barrel. It sold old-fashioned candy in barrels. Rock candy, saltwater taffy, root beer barrels, sugar daddies, etc. I was the only employee. I'd work from 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. It was so easy. I basically sat behind the counter on my laptop and just watched movies or played The Sims. Occasionally I'd fill up any candy that sold down, but I was lucky to get to customers the whole day. It was an empty area in the mall that not many people went down, so no surprise that they closed after 4 months of opening. I was an English teacher at my parents' home country. At the time I was 15. Since I studied in the States, I was the only one in the school that knew English, and they were starting to implement learning foreign languages, in this case English, into their curriculum. Long story short, my classes were shorter because I had to go around the school for half of the day teaching English to all grade levels. I was given the equivalent to $300 a week, plus excuses to get out of class. I'd say for a 15-year-old I was doing just fine. Age 15 I delivered magazines and collected payments for a national charity. They paid me a percentage of the subscription fee. I think it worked out to about £5. 50 hours plus I usually got tips, but it was only a few hours a week. For the Christmas edition, I always got extra tips and 1 year made well over $1,000. Easy job. And an excuse to go on long bike rides. I ended up doing it for 3 years in between other jobs until I left for college. 30 years later, my parents still subscribed to it. Sacking groceries at Albertsons. I got paid for $1.15 HR. At the end of each a day, my paycheck would come out to around $28, I think. I was always on time, and I always worked hard, so I got promoted to be the opener on the cane with a 10-cent raise. I did that job for about 6 months, and then my friend got hired as a bus boy at the Olive Garden. If you busted your ass there, you got better and better tips, so I quit and went there, where I made probably $12.15 HR. Warehouse logistic at the start of the corona epidemic. We were 3 people for a workplace in which you at least need 5 people to properly function and BCS. Everyone buyed stuff online. Even more orders came in. I was a trainee, so got something around $500 a month and nearly burned out. We managed it pretty well. Got invited for dinner with the CEO, etc. 3 years later got in a bike accident after work. They dropped me immediately but needs to hire 2 new people to take over my tasks. I got a worker's permit in middle school, and my best friend got me a job at this bagel store. The owner was a freaking drunk and would shout obscenities and throw pots and pans in the kitchen. We ate more food than we sold, so did the owner. so I think it was acceptable. One time we stole a bag of day-old donuts would have been tossed out and the owner showed up. I vividly remember my friend waving at me to escape and fleeing to my car or bike with a giant bag of stale donuts. Meat market. And I knew nothing about meat. Like, nothing. I didn't even know beef and steak came from the same animal. Little side note, I didn't want that job at all. My mum had me get an application from them to just practice filling them out and understand what they mean. Then she had me turn it in. I got an interview and intentionally dressed down and acted like I didn't care the whole time. And still got the job. I ended up being promoted to manager the week I turned 18. Tutoring for the community college I was studying at. I loved that job, and generally the tutees also liked me back. My main demographic was statistics, and I was officially mainline math through Calc 3, introductory chemistry, physics 1-3, and select topics from math appreciation. But my community college has a major nursing program, so 9-10 people I helped were statistics. My greatest claim to fame is that not a single one of my statistics tutees had to repeat the course. Oh boy. I was a 12-year-old cleaner in a snack shop. I didn't like the job actually, but I needed it. I wasn't cleaning at all. I didn't like it. One day the owner told me to clean. I told him I did. He told me it looks like it hasn't been cleaned for ages. I told him I clean every day. He told me okay, I'll show you how to clean. He showed me. Then I told him good job. I gave him 1 day salary, my salary. And I told him I'm not coming again. The first job I actually got paid for outside of mowing lawns and washing cars was Little League umpire when I was 13. Had usually umpire games. So 8-year-olds. IRC. My first real job was as a cable guy when I was 16. I worked summers and would go to commercial sites and pull Cat 5 cable mostly. I did that over the summers for a few years. It paid better than most summer jobs and I learned a lot. I think I started at $10 HR overtime in 1999. My first summer job was working in the tobacco field bringing it in. Then I'd work at a packing plant grading and shipping peppers, cucumbers, etc. and made more side money loading trucks when the drivers didn't want to. I was 11 years old doing all this during summer. My first non-summer job after graduation was working on a hog farm in the farrowing operation, cutting off tails, castrating the males and clipping the needle teeth and other stuff. The first time I made money was babysitting when I was 11 years old. I made $5 an hour to take care of a 3-year-old. I hated every moment of it. This is how I found out that I never wanted kids. The first time I earned a paycheck, I was answering phones at a pizza place. This was before online ordering was a thing. And so every order had to be called in. On a Saturday, I would take nearly 200 phone calls. Besides babysitting, when I was 13 I worked under the table for this restaurant called Looney Tunes Diner. There was a point my mom, aunt and grandma all worked there, so I'd go in with them for shifts and they would tip share with me for bussing their tables and water refills, etc. My first real legal job was working twice a week after school cleaning a computer repair store called Friendly Computers. Cold calling business all over the USA and trying to get in contact with the head of their payroll department to sell them the 1993 payroll guy. Can't believe in retrospect that I made any sales at all at 16 years old, but I was actually pretty good at it. I'd sell 3 or 4 a night in a 5-hour shift. Moved from there to telephone surveys, which was a step up career-wise. I was an IT help desk associate for my college. In a year, I was moved up to specialist and a few months later moved to the student software developer role, which hadn't been hired in about 20 years. I finalized those projects by my 3rd year and developed software for my local city during my final year of college and bit after. Now I've been out of work for a year. Babysitting technically, but I would just watch neighbors' babies, and they'd give me like $40 bucks. I didn't have a set rate, I just wanted an excuse to play with babies lore. Then I staffed a Boy Scout summer camp for 3 weeks, but that was more volunteer work cause I only got paid $300 total. My first hourly job where I actually got paychecks with Charlie's cheesesteaks. Donato's Pizza. Applied to be driver. Got hired as an installer. They fired me but wouldn't tell me. They stopped putting me on the schedule, so I stormed in wanting to know what was up. I eventually went back just to get few hours, not wanting job back. Just needed something, and after one day they told me that I wasn't needed. Fuck them, lol. I was like 18, 19. As a 4-year-old boy, I was fascinated by the construction crew working putting a new shingle roof on a large garage of our next-door neighbor. One of the men was amused at my interest, so he offered to pay me a penny for every nail I picked up around the garage. I made over $6 my first day, and kept coming back to make more for the rest of the week. Associate at Hot Topic. Just quit cheerleading, so came in with my varsity jacket for cheer and academic studying. Hi, my name. I'd be folding the band T-wall and customers were so confused, like, you work here. I listened to basically everything but country, including metal, so my friends get that but still are shocked when I say I worked there. Marketing assistant for a cloud company. They thought I was a nightclub promoter, what they were looking for. They went to trade shows and wanted that eccentric personality. My resume somehow got into the mix. I was actually an introverted college student who rarely needed a job. They took me on because I basically begged. Super cool job. Worked at a local barbecue restaurant. After just over a year, I became assistant manager, and a year after that made general manager. 18 years old, stayed for a total of 6 years. Great appreciation for the owners and leaders who gave me opportunities, and have great love for everyone I worked with there. Still look back fondly on that time.